guys, Shelly here. Welcome to my channel and thank you for joining me today. On today's video, I have a product to share with you. It's the Soft Pastels 72 color set from Arrtx, and they have very kindly sent this to me for review. I love using soft pastels in my coloring, and so I thought it would be nice to share it with you guys and see what you guys think about these soft pastels as well. I use soft pastels quite a lot because they're very user-friendly, they're very beginner-friendly, and I tend to use them mainly for backgrounds to cover large areas, and I do use them for basing as well. If I remember, I'll try and link a video in the description box below to a video where I shared how I use soft pastels for basing, and it really does help speed up the process, get down a base, and then working over with the pencils, and it does give quite a nice effect to the coloring. And then along with using it for backgrounds, you can add lots of special effects using erasers such as circles to create a sort of bouquet background. You can create sun rays very easily through water or through the sky, things like that. And so I think soft pastels are really nice to use for backgrounds, and it gives a very soft sort of effect. But if you layer up, or if you lay down darker colors in shadow areas, things like that, you can get quite an intense color with them. And then it obviously also is quite easy to go over with pencils and create quite a bit of depth to your pages. And like I said, it's very user-friendly, and it's very easy to correct mistakes if you want to by using an eraser. So yeah, I really like soft pastels, and so I thought I'd share it with you guys. And yeah, let's just open this up. So like I said, it's from Arrtx. Sorry, let me show you the back of the box. I don't know if I've seen the back of the box. Oh yes, there we go. This is really silly. I have opened this box, and I've sort of numbered all the soft pastels because they do come with numbers, which is brilliant. I'll show it to you in a second, but I didn't even think to look at the back of the box, and it's all listed there. I was trying to look on each specific soft pastel to see what the numbers were on the pastels. It would have been so much easier for me to just flip the box, but there we go. We have all the 72 colors listed out there with sort of their shades there. I like to do swatches, so I will do a swatch on screen so you guys can see what the color looks like. It just helps me when I'm picking colors for my pages, just to flip through my swatch book and see what colors I have available in like soft pastels or distress inks or Neocolor too, so water soluble crayons or watercolor paints, and my pencils as well, to choose which colors I want to use for a background. So it does help to have all my swatches there for whatever product or medium I'm going to be using. So I will swatch it out myself, but we do have one there, and it says soft pastel set, excellent coloring effect, well made and vibrant colors. All right. And it does say here the color swatch is only for reference, so I would ideally do it yourselves if you like swatches. Some people, yeah, don't need swatches, so that's absolutely fine as well. All right, so I'll open the box now. It's a very pretty box, isn't it? I really like that. I do like Arrtx's packaging. They always come up with such nice colors and designs on their packaging. I think recently I shared their acrylic markers, the Simp Tap acrylic markers, and it was a nice teal and pink. So I do really like their packaging. Now we have this little foam sort of square sheet here. Obviously soft pastels are very messy, but it's made sure that everything has stayed put. And then there's also a nice thick foam where the soft pastels are. So in the post, it hasn't cracked, or everything looks like they're in really good condition. So that's really good. So good packaging. All right, so we have beautiful colors, and I think I like, and this is how I have listed it out on my swatch sheet. I've sort of started from the white because that's what I'm used to. With my Faber-Castell Albrecht Dura pencils, I tend to have them from white going into yellow, orange, reds and pinks, and then going into the blues and then the greens. So I like the layout in this way, but I think on the back of the box, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to tip everything over, I'm just going to have a quick look. Yeah, on the back of the box they have it laid out like this. All right, but it's entirely your choice. I've just sort of turned it around and laid out my swatch chart like that. They have some beautiful colors here. I really like that there's lots of blues and greens. I want to try them out because I tend to do, like I said, backgrounds, basing. It's really nice for landscapes, especially when you have those massive pages like a Kirby Roseanne page to do. It really helps to lay down all that base color first. And yeah, some people, paper doesn't take watercolor mediums that well. So if you don't like the crinkling effect, for example, it doesn't bother me too much. But if you don't like the crinkling effect, or you don't want things to bleed through, things like that, soft pastels are a really nice option. All right, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to swatch them out for you. They're quite large actually, each of the pastels. I do like the size. And sorry, I'll pick one out. Which one will you be able to see well? I think the lighter ones are probably going to be easier for you to see. I've got some wet wipes on the side here in case I need to wipe my hands in between. But like I said, it's going to get very messy. So on each soft pastel, we have the name, Arrtx, the brand, and then we have a name of the soft pastel. I haven't included the S. There's an S at the beginning and then a number. All of the soft pastels have the S on it, so I just left that out and I just put down the number, but we have that. So obviously, eventually with soft pastels, they can break depending on how much force you're applying. They can rub off eventually. So I like to just know my order that my soft pastels are laid out in, and that's how I do my swatch. So if the numbers eventually rub off, I will know where everything is. I'll always use one soft pastel, put it back in exactly the same place before I pick out another. So I'll never have multiple soft pastels out at the same time. I don't do soft pastel artwork. Obviously for artists you might have that, but I tend to just leave it the way it is and just pull out one at a time. And so having the swatch sheet in the correct order helps. But we do have a number, which is brilliant, and that's why we can swatch it out. All right. So that's what they look like. They're really thick. Soft pastels do last a while, especially in coloring books. When you're not doing artwork with them and you're just using them for backgrounds and basing, it does actually last a long time. All right, sorry for the noise I'm about to make with this packet of wet wipes, because it's okay if I come closer to the end when we go into the dark colors, but right now I picked up a green and I don't want to get it all over my lighter yellows and whites. All right, brilliant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swatch out these soft pastels. Now I tend to use soft pastels in my coloring books with cotton buds at the moment, or cotton pads, or if you've ever seen the brushes that some people use for, I have a very massive one I've pulled out here, but the brushes I use for distressing, you can also use those for soft pastel work as well. So I do have a few tools. My favorite is actually just normal ordinary cotton pads. I do like how they lay down, and obviously you get them in big packs, so it's economical, and I don't have to clean up after. With the brushes, if I'm going to use them for distressing or use them for different colors, things like that, some pigment stays on the brushes and then you have to rinse it out, and then, you know, make sure they dry properly before you use them again. So it just saves time. Soft pastels is quick. It's a quick medium to use, and so even the tidying up, I try and make it quick as well, not long it out. All right, but for my swatches, I'm not going to use this because it's very hard to obviously stay in the boxes, in such small boxes. So I'm just going to go direct with the pastels to give us the an idea of what the color is like. And then I know that when I use it as with the cotton pads, for example, the color is going to be quite a lot lighter. Yeah, and then you would just have to layer up to make it quite intense. So what I'll do is I'll just try it out, a couple out, and then maybe do the rest to music. It shouldn't take too long like this. Maybe I should zoom in a bit with my dirty fingers. All right. So this is 001, so it's white. Now we don't have names for the soft pastels, but I don't think we really need it, do we? All right. And then we have 011, which is a very pale yellow. I like that. My printer ink is normal inkjet, so it might pull the color a little bit sometimes. I'm going to try and see if I can just stay in the box without going over the line. Very vibrant colors, actually. I'm just going to do a few and then I can put it to music. But yeah, I think the colors are quite intense, and maybe what I'll do is I'll pull out the one other set of soft pastels I have, or that I use, which is a Faber-Castell brand, but I think these are, they feel really soft. So if you're someone who likes to actually use them direct to paper as well, or if you do artwork with soft pastels, they are a nice, they feel nice. They don't feel scratchy. They feel smooth. They feel soft, which is nice. They actually feel creamy. Like this one felt really creamy on the paper. Beautiful colors. Yeah, very vibrant. So it'll be nice. I will obviously test it out the way I usually use it in coloring books, so with cotton pads, so we can see what the color will be like if we didn't use it direct to paper. But they feel lovely on paper. I thought, you know, some soft pastels, some cheap brands especially, are quite scratchy sometimes. And there's not that much dust coming out. There is a little bit. It is soft pastels. It is a messy medium, but it doesn't seem too dusty. Is this the right color? 228. So what I usually do is I scratch off a little bit on a palette, and then I use my cotton pad, and that's what I use to over the paper. All right, so what I'll do is I'll put this to music and let me swatch out the rest, and I'll get back with you in just a minute. so that is the swatch, and I haven't blown any soft pastel off or brushed any soft pastel off. So yes, you can see the crumbs. A little bit more on particular colors like that one, and I think it was that green there, but other than that, it's not too bad, and I was using it direct to the paper. But look at how vibrant these colors are. I'm just going to dust off that now. I just wanted to show you. Sorry, I'm doing it onto the foam pad that was in the box, not just onto the floor. Yeah, I know these have been sent to me for review, but I'll always be very honest with what I think about a product. As you guys know, I keep my, coloring supplies quite minimal. And so I wouldn't, I'll give an honest opinion on what I think, because I wouldn't want to just collect things that I'm not going to use myself. And I think these colors are beautiful. They're vibrant. And for those of you who like neons, you have a few neons there. I don't use neons that much, so I don't think I would use these four colors that much. Actually, the green you could sort of use with the other greens and it might work really well, but those three colors I'm not 100% sure I would use, but those two I would, and that green I would, and the rest I would definitely. And some colors are beautiful, like this color here reminds me of sort of the magenta of Faber-Castell Arrtx pencils or polychromos. That one a little bit lighter than the red violet. It's a little bit different, so a nice color to have as a base for the Faber-Castells, because it's a bit different to what we have. We have some skin tone colors there, and that's a beautiful light purple. I like that. And we have some turquoises, some really dark blues, which is beautiful. I love the range of greens. I like that we have some of the more realistic sort of yellowy greens and olivey greens, and then the deep like cobalt green. That's a beautiful color. That's like a sort of like dark sepia of the Faber-Castells. That's like the Payne's Grey, but a little bit lighter, or a little bit blue, slightly bluer. Maybe more similar to the Payne's Grey of like Derwent Ink 10s. That's like a Caput Mortem. We have the ochres, the yellow ochres, which are just really nice, and then the sanguines, and so really nice range actually to use as backgrounds and as basing as well. So, and the intensity is just amazing, because yeah, it is a very soft sort of medium to use, so it's nice if obviously you're going to get a lot of color or pigment coming through when you use them. But the real test will be, for me, when I use it, when I apply it with a cotton pad, so that I know what the color is going to be like when I use it as a base or as a background. So I think what I'm going to do is I feel like using them straight away on a page. So maybe let me pick out a page, and I think I'll add on a video sort of showing you how I'm using it on a page, first of all, maybe for a background or a sky or something, and then I'll basically give my feedback on how I find them fully with the way I use them. But direct to paper, very vibrant, very soft. Yes, dusty, expected from soft pastels, not excessively dusty, but it is dusty. Soft pastels are messy, beautiful color range, lovely for backgrounds. Like I love all those blues and greens for backgrounds and a bit of those reds, and then lovely for landscapes, basing, and animals for basing. So yeah, lovely colors. But now let me put them to the test in a coloring book and use them the way I usually use soft pastels. I'll be with you in just a second. Okay, so I've chosen a page from Kirby Rosanne's Fragile World to test out these soft pastels and to play with them in this particular book. I've been wanting to colour this spread of penguins, Galapagos penguins, for a while, and it has been on my list for a winter season page for quite a while, even though it's not necessarily a winter page, but penguins remind me of winter, and so I decided to put this down on my winter page. I love using soft pastels in this particular book because of the very detailed illustrations and the more realistic illustrations, and it just helps create get color down on the paper and create a base for the pencils to work over, because yeah, otherwise I would take forever coloring in these books. So it does really help me just to get color down on the paper first with soft pastels and then work with my pencils to create all my detailing. I played around with a few techniques using the soft pastels. I wanted to see how different methods of application would work with these particular soft pastels, how they will erase off the paper, and how I can just basically blend together colors. I wanted to see how the soft pastel would work directly to the paper. So yeah, I've played around with it a little bit, and I also want to check out how pencils will work over the top. And I don't think I do it on this particular video. I'll be doing a full color along for this particular page on the channel, and so you'll see how the pencils will work over the top on that particular video. So in this video I just wanted to test the soft pastels, and so yeah, I'll be showing you how I do that. The first technique I used is taking the soft pastel and shaving off a little bit onto a palette and then using a cotton pad to apply it to the page. And I use this method most often with my soft pastels rather than direct to the paper, just because I can control where I'm applying the color. However, I was finding that the soft pastels wasn't being picked up very easily with the cotton pad, so I was not getting as much color to the paper fast enough. And so just to speed up the process, I decided to try and drop some of those soft pastel shavings directly to the paper, and then sort of blend it into the paper, and that worked a lot better. So I think maybe it's the cotton pad I'm using. Maybe I should use a cotton ball. It might pick up the soft pastel shavings or dust a bit better off the palette, but in this instance it didn't work. So I think it would be better to shave off a bit of the soft pastel direct to your paper and then blend it in with a cotton pad, if you're using a cotton pad, or even with a cotton with one of those blending brushes. So I do show how I would do it the second time around. So first I did it on the palette, then I decided it wasn't giving me enough color onto the paper, so I just dropped off a little bit of the soft pastel onto the paper, and then it worked really good. And then when I was going in with a darker shade of, I think, turquoise, I don't remember the numbers that I used, but I then shaved it off directly to the paper, and that worked beautifully. The colors were very vibrant. There was a lot of pigment to the color, to the soft pastels, and yeah, I was getting plenty of color onto my page. I love using the soft pastels for the background, and I did that for the sky to give a nice soft effect. And then I decided that I was going to use it for basing as well, and so I used some other colors just to test out the colors and see how everything works. Of course, soft pastel is messy, and it will go over the line art. It will go over areas that you don't want to have covered with soft pastel. And so I wanted to make sure that these particular soft pastels will erase off easily, so that I can then go in with the colors I want for the line art. And so I wanted to use different erasers as well, because I do tend to use different erasers with my colouring. I use a kneadable eraser, I use an electric eraser, a Derwent electric eraser. The kneadable eraser I use is a Faber-Castell. And then I also have a Tombow mono eraser, which sometimes I would use for things like sun rays or a lot smaller areas where I want to erase off. So I wanted to test a couple. So I used my kneadable eraser. That picked up the color really easily, the soft pastel really easily, cleaning off the soft pastel from the line art that I didn't want the soft pastel on. So for example, the clouds, I wanted to have white clouds, and so I wanted to erase off all the blue that had gone onto those clouds. The erasers worked well. Then I also wanted to try out the soft pastels directly to paper, and so for the rocks I decided to use the soft pastel directly on the paper in the shadow areas, and then blend with a cotton pad, blend it out into the areas of the stones that will be lighter. So I did that, and yeah, they blended out pretty well, so I was really happy with that. Then the next thing I wanted to see was how the soft pastels will do if I add a different color over another. So for the rocks that were under the water, I wanted to add a little bit of the brownish greenish color I'd used for the rocks above the water. So I shaved off the soft pastel directly to the water, under the water, and then blended it with the cotton pad. Then I wanted to see how it would work if I put a blue over the top, and two very different colors, and yeah, that worked pretty well. So again, I just shaved off a bit of blue onto the paper once I'd blended in the browns, and I did exactly the same thing, just took a cotton pad and blended it all together. And once again, I came in with my erasers to check that I could erase off the soft pastels, because I'd put quite a bit of soft pastel now, and I didn't want my penguins, for example, under the water to be a brown blue color. And so I used the eraser again to see how that would work after I've put so much soft pastel down, and it worked really well. So overall, I'm actually really happy with these soft pastels. I was quite surprised. They're such big, chunky pastels. They're going to last a good amount of time for the work that I do with them, because yes, I don't do large pieces of art with just soft pastels, but for what I use them for, they're going to last me a long time. So I'm glad they're nice and chunky. They are soft pastels that are very pigmented, so you don't need to use that much soft pastel to get a good amount of color. Whether you're using it direct to the paper, definitely if you're using it direct to the paper, you don't need that much. But if you're shaving off the soft pastels using a knife onto your paper, then again, you still don't need that much, because it is pigmented, and a little bit goes a long way, basically. The one thing that was disappointing was that my method of using it off a palette didn't work very well, which was a shame, because that's the method I tend to use the most. I tend to shave it off onto a palette and then pick it up with a cotton pad and put it to the paper. And I couldn't do that. For some reason, the cotton pad was not picking up the soft pastel dustings from the palette very well. So that was a bit of a shame, but maybe I should use a cotton ball or a blending brush and see whether those will work better. But yeah, using it direct to paper is pretty much the same method. Sorry, not direct to paper, but dusting it off or shaving off some soft pastel direct to the paper and then blending it with cotton pad is pretty much the same method, which worked really well. I got a lot of color in that method. When using the soft pastels direct to the paper, they were definitely soft. They felt really nice to the paper and definitely very pigmented, and they blended well. A lot of soft pastels, when you use it direct to the paper, it is hard to blend them out and you get streaks. And yes, there was a bit of streaking, no doubt about that, but it still blended out pretty well, as you will see when I do the underwater section of the page, and it will work really good for a base. The pastels erased off really easily with the erasers that I tend to use, so a kneadable eraser, an electric eraser, and a Tombow mono eraser. So that was really good, because I can use it for different effects. I can erase off color from areas I don't want it to be on very easily without leaving back too much pigment, so that when I go in with my pencil work, I still get a good color which doesn't look too dirty, just because I've got a base of soft pastel which I couldn't erase off. I used a fixative to spray it and to make sure that it doesn't bleed through to the next page, because sometimes with some soft pastels, usually it's the red colors. When I use the red colors and I spray the fixative, sometimes it does bleed through to the next page. But for the colors that I used on this particular illustration, that did not happen. So that's really good as well. And I was able to work over the top, and you'll see me working over the top on my color along, not on this particular video. And I've actually started using the pencils over the top, and although you won't see it on this video, I can tell you that the pencils work perfectly over the top, and I'm getting good results for this particular illustration. But the one negative that I would want to mention, and it's not a big negative because all soft pastels are messy, I do find that it was slightly messier than the other soft pastels I have in my collection that I tend to use, which are the Faber-Castell ones. So slightly more dust does get produced, and I feel like once it's down on paper and blended, it still picks up a lot easier than my other set of soft pastels. So even though you spray the fixative, before you spray the fixative, you do tend to get some color picked up, and it will always happen because it's soft pastel. It needs to be sprayed with fixative. However, I felt more of the color was being picked up than with my Faber-Castell. Sometimes when I'm working with the Faber-Castell soft pastels, I don't tend to always spray the fixative before I go over with the pencils because I don't feel that the pigment moves around that much, whereas with this particular soft pastel, I had to spray it, otherwise my page would be a mess. So that's the only slight negative, but it's known that you have to spray a fixative, a workable fixative, once you've done your soft pastel work before you go over with any other mediums. But I am happy with this product, and I would definitely recommend it to those of you who are interested in using soft pastels. They worked wonderfully, wonderful range, and yes, I'm definitely happy to have it in my collection. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you liked the review and liked seeing me work with the soft pastels on the Kirby page. And if you're interested in seeing how it's going to turn out, I will have a full color along for this particular page. So watch out for that. And yeah, I'll be back with you guys again soon. So until then, take care. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye bye.